right, it is time for Friday Reads. Hey everyone, it is Shannon, and I'm super excited to be here today and to share with you this video. In my Friday Reads videos, I share how my reading has been going, including what I finished, what I've started, and what I'm carrying over week to week. And as always, I have a little bit of everything. So first up, apologies, no video last week. So I didn't necessarily come back too soon, but I didn't have time to film last week. As opportunity arose to both help some family members and also spend time with some other family members, and I was like, maybe this is just gonna all work out. And so I just was like, hey, why don't we do this? And then it was like, yeah, let's do that. So I didn't have I could have probably managed filming, but to be honest, I didn't end up spending a lot of time reading that week because I was focusing on family. And so I did read a bit every day, most days. Yeah, I think every day. And, but I, not huge amounts of progress in anything. And it was just an opportunity that presented itself. So I'm like, let's just do this. And I think I'm trying to be a little more flexible with things, but I also really want to be consistent, especially with my Friday Reads. That being said, I don't have any backup videos to share in case something like that happens. Usually I do keep something available in case it happens that I can't film. But hopefully that'll go on the roster and I'll get an extra video so there won't be a big long space. But still, I am still happy that everything seemed to really work out. Everyone seemed to be happy about how things worked out. So that was a really great thing. And I actually had a good time as well. So it all worked out in the end, but one less video. So I apologize for that. Also, I noticed on my last video when I uploaded it, it was a bit sort of soft and it did say that it was SD. And I'm like, why is it SD? And then I looked back and a whole bunch of my videos last year were SD. So, even though I chose HD on my camera, when I reformatted it last summer, for some reason, you have to choose true HD or full HD or whatever. So all of my videos for the back half of last year were SD. I had no idea. I thought sometimes they take a while to sort of process, and so they look sort of a bit fuzzy, but it looked really soft, and I'm like, oh. But that being said, sometimes I don't necessarily want to be in HD, but so hopefully this is HD. It's just a continual game of noticing and adjusting as life is. Anyway, let's get to the books, because in titles, some of them are books, some of them are other things, see how things went. So, what did I finish? One of the first things I had to go back, I finished this the day after I filmed the video, and so I didn't end up talking about it, and I ended up loving it, and that was Snapdragon. This is by Kat Leyh, Leyh. I don't know if you pronounce that H. Anyway, this was fantastic. This is a graphic novel about Snapdragon, who is the protagonist. Oh, GB. TV. Oh, good boy. This is wonderful. So it's a middle grade title, and I got it from last year. The Stratford Public Library had a list of gender affirming middle grade titles for Trans Awareness Week last week, and I had read one of them and loved it, which was The Prince and the Dressmaker. So I thought, oh, well, when you see it, and it was a list of 5. So I'm like, hey, this looks like a good TBR. So this ended up coming in on hold. And so I decided to read it, and I love it. So we follow Snapdragon. There's who is sort of initially starts with looking for sort of the town or the neighborhood witch for some reason. And it sort of just goes from there. I will say that one of the things I liked about this one, and then also befriends, or I don't know if it was befriending or if they were already friends. There's also a great friendship, lots of relationship stuff, but also lots of emotion in this one, and a variety of levels of emotion in this one. And I thought it was a really great journey type of, and it wasn't super, I don't know if it was a journey for Snapdragon. It was. There was also a 2 timeline situation as well with some flashbacks and stuff. And I thought it really blended sort of realistic fiction and speculative fiction well, because there were some elements that were a bit like, is that possible? Or that's not possible. That might be possible in terms of the witch character, which I really liked. Which were they a witch? Were they? You know, like, so anyway, I loved it. I thought it was great. I loved the relationships. I loved the character arcs, and I loved the story. So this was a huge win, and I'm really happy. And I've actually made that list one of my goals for this year, to work through it's only 5 titles, and now I've read 2, so I think it's, you know, there's a possibility at least to make more progress. I'll leave a link to their Instagram post with the 5 titles if you are interested. Next up, I also finished and am continuing the Decagon House Murders, and this is story by Yukito Ayatsuji, art by Kurohara, and this is a manga. It is a mystery thriller, and this one is quite interesting. I believe it's finished at 5 volumes, and my library has all 5 volumes, so I've already gone on to the second one, so I got to be careful about what I say, because it is a mystery, and I find with mystery thriller manga series, it's better to keep going, especially when there's a large cast of characters, and this one has 7 to 10 characters, so that's a fair size. But I do find that with the art styles and personalities of the character, it's not the art style, what would you say, with the sort of what the characters look like, the depictions of the characters, just depiction is not necessarily visual. Anyway, by how the characters are drawn and their personalities is easy to remember who's who. I didn't even have to do a character sheet, which normally I would have to do for anything with 7 characters or more. But this one has mega, and then there were none vibes, and it even points that out. It follows group from a mystery club in, I believe it's university, who most of them decide to spend time on this not deserted, but isolated island. So it's and then there were none. And then things start to turn, and, you know, intrigue and mystery ensues. So to quote Jen from Remembered Reads, she often uses that term, I can't remember what I said. Anyway, but intrigue and mystery ensues. Yeah, that's it. I'm enjoying this a fair amount. All of the characters are named after literary, mystery and thriller literary people, I guess authors. I think they're all authors. Some of them I'm familiar with, some of them I'm not familiar with. One of the things I actually am enjoying about this one is that I do get a lot of the references, and that makes me feel good about the time and effort that I have put into things like those books exploration and reading different genres and reading different authors, because now I'm like, oh, this is like that, and I know that author and they wrote this, and I just like that. It's one of the reasons why I do things like those books, is so that I get the references. Now at this point I mostly just recognize the author name, and then obviously there's a huge similarity to, and then there were none in terms of the setup. And also this is actually based on something else, which I'm not sure what, and I'm not going to look at that until I finish the series, just because I don't want to accidentally get spoilers. If you happen to know what it is, feel free to share. I don't not want to know, but I don't want to over research and then finally accidentally figure out what the ending is, because it is a mystery. So yeah, the Decagon House Murders. Have you read it? Are you curious about it? I am actually really enjoying it, and I did save it for this year because I am doing my A to Z manga challenge this year, and I got the letter D really early last year, so this one kept on coming up, and I'm like, no, I want to wait till I can count it. And I have been trying to be a bit more pick and stick with manga if my library has a good amount of the volumes. And this one, they only, I think, have 1 copy per volume, but so far there isn't tons of hold, so I hope to be able to move through it pretty swiftly. I also started last week, I did start and I'm continuing to read The Last Fallen Moon by Gracie Kim. I'm really enjoying this one. This one is for buddy reading with Izzy and Kay Kelly, and this is the second book in the Gifted Clans series, and I'm loving it. Middle grade, urban fantasy, Korean mythology, and I love it. I absolutely love it. So it's been a blast. So that's also sort of started and continued. In terms of more starts, wow. Okay, so I picked that one to be my start for the week with this whole TBR of 5 titles in focus and 1 to start, 3 to continue, and 1 to finish, which I talked about in my last Friday reads, is my new sort of format. And then a library hold came in, so I had to start madly, deeply the Alan Rickman Diaries. I mean, I love memoirs, especially by performing artists, and Alan Rickman. I mean, who doesn't love Alan Rickman? So this one I have not made a lot of progress in. I've had it for 2 weeks out of the 3, and I'm probably like 6% through. It really is diaries, like it really is date, and then sort of like sometimes point form notes, sometimes a paragraph or two, like all of the times he mentions a person, it's their first name, and then there's edited in like what the last name is in their relationship to him, to give some context. So it took a little while to find my rhythm with this one, in terms of reading it, because it really, in some ways, I hate to say this, but in some ways it was rather mundane. Like it was like, went to do this interview, had an interview here, took mom to the whatever store for her whatever. And I'm like, but there also is a lot of kind of like charm in that, like it really just is sometimes everyday life. And then other times it's like flying to Belgium to be in a scene, and oh my goodness, this person is, not much got done because of blankety blank blank. I do, now that I've read more of it and I have sort of established sort of the rhythm of it, I do absolutely love his insights into art, into acting, into how people work together or how they don't, and that is just like gold. Like I really, really love it. But unfortunately, there's no way I'm going to finish this by the time I have to return it, so I'll put it on hold again. This is why books end up on my currently reading for a long period of time, but I don't know. I am considering purchasing it. The physical book is still in hardcover, and it's $40 Canadian, so that's a no. And mostly because hardcovers I find really hard to read. They're just heavy in the hands. The ebook is about $16.99, which I think is rather reasonable for a new release. I know other people think that that's outrageous for an ebook, but ebooks still have to be formatted. like it's not just you just dunk the PDF from like one computer to another. But I think that's reasonable for a new release. But I might wait till the trade paperback comes out, because there are some drawings and photographs and stuff like that. So that might be nice to have. It does run about 400 to 500 pages in hardcover, but when I read it on e-reader, like I'm reading it through Overdrive, it's more like 700 when I increase the font, so it's a slow read. But I am enjoying it, and I'm glad I kept at it, because now I know I really do want to read it. And it's chronological. I'm currently I'm in the 90s. I know a lot of people are interested in, let's say, the HP years and reflections on the actors who are in those films, and I'm curious about that. That's actually all I've heard people comment on it, but it starts way before. It's like after Die Hard, but before then. So we're talking mid-90s to start. So anyway, I'm really enjoying it. I also started a romance novella, Flirting with Ruin by Marguerite Kay, and oh my goodness, this is really good so far. I'm only 2 chapters in, and I'm loving it. I read a lot of the Harlequin Undones last year, and I'm going to continue to read them this year. I find it just much better for me to read romance novellas right now. Being able to finish something in a week or 2 weeks that's like 60 to 70 pages is much more my pace than full-on novels. I don't know why, but it works. It also gives me a good chance to check different authors, and so far Margaret Kay has been, I'm really enjoying this one. I have really enjoyed one of her other works, so that's also good, because then when I look at the full-length novels, she's an author I'm likely to try. So anyway, that was really great, really enjoying about that. Carrying over from last week, I am working on The Disappearing Dictionary by David Crystal. This is a treasury of lost English dialect words. I'm very close to finishing this one. I am at letter V, so really close. This wasn't picked as my finish for the week, but I think this probably will be the most likely finish. But I had picked to finish this week Conan, The People of the Black Circle. This is the 12th in the Conan the Barbarian series, and I picked it when I was reading, not this week, but last week. I thought it would be a fast read. I didn't realize that this one is more of a novella, or novelette. I can't remember which is which. I do have it listed on my spreadsheet, but yeah, it's over 100 pages. So I thought a lot of the stories I've read of so far have been like 50 pages. So this, I might not get finished. I will say I am enjoying it. It's got lots of adventure, lots of chaos, not tons of fighting yet. There usually is a fair amount of fighting in the Conan stories, which is something that I enjoy. So hopefully there will be more in the future. Yeah, so that puts me at 12 out of, I think there's 18 or 19 in the Conan series. There is a full-length novel somewhere near the end, but I am slowly but surely making my way through that series. I really I'm just thrilled that so many of the titles are short stories and novelettes and novellas. That really is working for me. So I mentioned it previously, my new TBR thing that I'm doing, which I also mentioned last week, which is each week I'm working on weekly TBRs, and I'm picking 5 titles for my weekly TBR, 1 title to finish, 1 title to start, and 3 titles to carry on that I've already been working on, I think, and one of those has to be nonfiction. So that's my current setup. But I realized that I probably, in that 5, also need to include, and I have not talked about any of these titles, I probably also should include something that's actually an adult novel. Because that is one thing I have not been having a lot of success finishing generally, and it is important to me to do that. So, and I looked back this week, none of the 5 were novels, adult novels, and then I looked back for this year, and only 2 out of the 4 TBRs included an adult novel. Sometimes it was this. Well of Eternity. It's a Warcraft book, obviously. World of Warcraft. So, yeah, so I'm going to, that's an addendum. I hadn't even noticed it. It's not the only thing that's important to me, but I realize I'm not going to make progress on novels if I'm not including them in my weekly TBRs. So we'll see how it goes. If it ends up being too tight, if that's too many parameters, I might have to shift something, but I am going to try it next week, and so I will so I'll see how that goes. I did also want to mention another idea I had that might be fun to do, which is to do a historical timeline of the books that I read this year. So some things like would be hard to place, like this, although this has a lot of dialect type words. It's a lot of dialect, and sometimes he says when they're from, sometimes he doesn't, and some things don't apply, like, that's fantasy. But I mean, like this, I can't remember if it's Regency. It's post-Napoleonic Wars. So I'm trying to remember when that is. Is that pre-Regency? I'm trying to remember. So that's when this one is. So that would have a place. This actually would have a place. It would have the 90s to sort of, I think, 2016, I think is the period we're looking at. And then some things is sort of just like contemporary, but I just thought it might be interesting to see. So I don't know, have you ever done something like that? I started it ages ago. I remember one of the times I read Macbeth, I threw that in because I didn't realize it was actually based on a particular person. And so I started plotting it out, but I think it might be interesting to do it for like a year's worth of reading, just to see what timelines I'm hearing. Like even romance itself has tons of timelines, and I like reading historical romance, but then I also do read a fair amount of sort of fantasy and urban fantasy, and like this is like a whole other world, so it has its own internal chronology. So anyway, does that sound like an interesting idea? Is that something that you would consider doing, the chronology, like doing a timeline for the titles that you read and what periods that they're in? There would be a whole bunch that are contemporary, but like right now, or recent, but might be interesting. Anyway, so that's something that's on my mind. That's what I thought I would share. Yeah, let me know if that sounds like an interesting idea and if you would consider doing it, or maybe you already have done it. I am hoping to have some videos out this week. I'm not going to say what they are just because, in case. But one is a classic one that I do, and one is a way to sum up the end of last year, especially because I didn't do a lot of videos. So a little mystery, I don't usually do that. But anyway, so I'm just also sorting out how many videos I can do on this camera when it's in full HD or whatever it was called. Anyway, that is how my reading weeks have gone. Let me know how your reading is going. Would you be interested in trying out a historical timeline for the books that you read? And I will be back soon with another video. Thanks so much for watching.